Hi guys, I'm Audrey Meyer. Hey Darrin.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome to my podcast. An athlete who turned real estate athlete. I have a lot of dogs at my house here in Cabarete, and I'm super excited to be here with Darrin Brown. Hey Darrin, how you doing?
Hello, I'm good. How are you?
Good. Okay, let's just wait 1 second so the dog can say hi to everybody. All right, you guys good? All right, Darrin, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's very early on Sunday for me, but I'm barely awake. I have coffee. I'm good.
That's good. So keep sipping your coffee. It's 11 for you guys watching from somewhere else in the world. It's 11 in the morning. Darrin, I know you just woke up. So Darrin, you are just like me. You live here, you dream life in the Dominican Republic in Cabarete. So can I ask you a question?
That's the idea, right?
Right, that's the idea. Yes. So I want to know, and I want you to tell the audience, what brought you to the Dominican Republic on the first time?
A very large airplane.
Okay, and then?
No, I, like any good Canadian, I came to the Dominican Republic for the first time in, I want to say 1999, for a 1 week run to the sun, all inclusive, stand in the pool and drink as much as you can vacation. And at 2 o'clock on the first day, I realized that I could meet all these Canadians who were standing in the pool in Canada. So I left the resort and went into town, into Puerto Plata, and I had the best time. I spoke no Spanish, met awesome people, and then began coming back as often as I could. At the time, Toronto wasn't a 4-season town. In the winter, it got very slow for my industry. And I figured out that I could live here in the winters instead of watching the snow come down and not work. I could live here in the winters and wait for the phone to ring.
Yeah, so let me go a little bit back in the past. Actually, Darrin, tell us, who is Darrin Brown and what's the reason you needed to come in the Dominican Republic for vacation, I presume. So I didn't introduce you from the first part. So here I'm just throwing you the ball and I'm like,
okay,
tell us.
You want me to do all the work?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait.
I
have my dog barking.
That's okay. I started as a kid actor in the 80s in Toronto on a television series called Degrassi Junior High. And then after the show ended, I kind of transitioned into becoming an assistant director along the way, doing many, many different types of jobs in the film industry. And I am now an assistant director with 30 plus years of experience at standing outside and pointing and yelling. And like I said before, in the 90s, in the late 90s, there just wasn't as much work in the winter. The work would go away, and sometimes you'd get a winter job and sometimes you wouldn't. And I kind of figured out that I really didn't enjoy being outside in the winter making movies. So I started coming here, started in Puerto Plata, as I said, and then over the years, found my way to Cabarete and figured out that that's where I wanted to live. And now I own a couple of apartments in town. And now the film industry has come here. So the film industry, I like to say the film industry followed me here, but I used to come here to get away from work. And now there is an enormous amount of filming and filmmaking going on in the Dominican Republic, both international productions and domestic productions. So that's one of the bonuses of the last 5 years, is the uptick in international production that comes here.
Okay, so how does it feel? You mentioned earlier that when you arrived here in the Dominican Republic, you didn't speak any Spanish, right?
None.
So how did it feel coming from Canada, speaking English, and I think a little bit of French as well, right? Coming in a foreign country, which is completely different than Canada or Europe, where I'm from. How did it feel for you coming to the Dominican Republic at the first time?
It was great. I mean, from the jump from the outset, even not speaking any Spanish. Now I speak a version of Spanish I like to call Dominican Canadian, which just means that if I don't know a word, I just make it up, and my grammar is atrocious. But coming here the first time and speaking zero Spanish, everyone was very friendly, very helpful, excited to show me around. I mean, like any place in the world, you got to be a little bit cautious about people who might be a little too eager to help you out. But in general, even that first year speaking zero Spanish, I was able to meet people, communicate either through, my very, very basic Sesame Street Spanish, or English or sign language or whatever. And it was very, very easy to find my way around, get where I needed to go. I mean, at the time there was no internet. It was 1999. So there was guidebooks and photos and all that, and let's go. And those were very helpful as well.
And then when was the first time you realized that's the place where I actually want to have a second home, or even relocate to the Dominican Republic? When was that first time, and what helped you? How could I say that? What was that little thing that, like, that's it, that's the place where I'm going to relocate?
Well, the first would have been in Puerto Plata. I had rented a car, and it was a soft top that I used to leave unlocked because I didn't want anyone to break in, like to damage the soft top. And for some reason, someone popped the lock on the trunk. I can't figure out, because there was just a zipper if they wanted to get inside. I never left anything in it. There was nothing worth stealing in it. And in order to return it to the rental company, I was going to need to get that fixed, and I wanted to fix it myself. So I went to the first place, again, speaking no Spanish, went to the first place I saw with a car on the sign, and drove in and said, I need to put a cylinder lock in the hole in the back. And the guy was like, well, we don't do that here, but take my son. And he gave me his 11-year-old son. He'll show you where to go. And his 11-year-old son drove with me down to the port where there's guys doing metal work on the side of the road. And he said, he'll fix it out. So the guy comes and looks, and he goes back and fishes around in a box of vehicle locks and finds one that fits and puts it in there. And I'm like, no. It just needs to look good. It doesn't have to work. I want to return it to the rental company with a lock in it. And he was like, quiet. And he made the thing work. He cut the tumblers to my key, hooked up the cable that opens the back. And it was kind of at that moment I was like, oh, this is a place I could live. And with anything here, like, you should always ask the price of things first. And I didn't do that. And in the back of my head, as he was working on the car, I was like, oh no, he's going to take me to the cleaners. It cost me $7. So at that point, I was kind of like, oh, this is a really great place with really great people. And then the one that cemented Cabarete for me was, I think, one of the first winters I ever spent in Cabarete, when I decided to move from Puerto Plata to Cabarete. One of the first Christmases, I was walking past the Colmado, which is like a convenience store that's literally in a ditch beside my apartment. It's at the side of the road, much lower than the road, beside my apartment. And the family that runs that Colmado was having their Christmas dinner outside on their patio, literally in the ditch beside the road. And I'm Jewish, so Christmas Eve has never really been a big thing. So I was walking past, and these people who are not very wealthy, do not have a lot of money. They run a small colmado beside, a hotel, invited me to share their table. And they had put, it's the table they sit at every day, but because it's Christmas, they had put tablecloth out and napkins and the whole thing. And they invited me to join them for Christmas dinner, which I did. And they gave everything they had. Like, I didn't eat all their food, but they invited me to share with them their Christmas dinner, which at that point I was like, this is where I should live. Yeah. And that's one of the things about the Dominican Republic, is that you'll find that the people with the least here want to share everything they have with you.
Yeah.
They will give everything they have to
I
share with you. And it's a good place to live, and it's a good investment. And the Dominican is the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean. And we've figured out the agricultural sector. The food is fantastic. It's just, it checked all the boxes, and the air didn't hurt my face like it does in Canada. So.
yeah, I hear you. I truly hear you. So yeah, how many years you've been here now, Darrin?
This would be 24, I think. I think I'm coming up on 25 years next year.
25 years. Yeah, that's amazing.
And I do come and go. I mean, I'm rarely here 12 months a year. I do leave for projects, but every year I'm here longer and longer and longer. I occasionally leave for projects. I occasionally leave to see friends and family. I mean, it is a very quick trip to New York or Toronto. It's a 3.5-hour flight. So I do leave the island regularly, but every year it's longer and longer and longer. And hopefully when I'm done making movies, this is where I will be full time.
Yeah. And talking about movies, actually, you mentioned that the movies follow you, right? Let's just keep it like that. I like that.
The movie industry followed me to the Dominican Republic.
So would you like to talk a little bit about the movie industry in the Dominican Republic? Because I know you've been working here and you told me a little bit about what's going on. Can you share that a little bit?
Yeah. There's always been a bit of a film industry in the Dominican Republic. A lot of commercials, even as far back as the 70s, Godfather 2, all the Cuba sequences for Godfather 2 were shot here. The Dominican Republic for a very long time sort of was a place for your movie to go to pretend to be in Cuba or Africa or Mexico for 2 weeks at the end of your of a movie you were making. And then about, I want to say 14 years ago, the government and private industry decided to get in the international service production game. And that goes on everywhere across the world right now. And they passed a tax credit. You get a 25% all spend tax credit. And they decided to build a studio that has the world's newest water tank and the most technologically advanced water tank in the world for shooting water work, above water work and below water work. It's like the biggest infinity pool you've ever seen, located in the south. And when I came, I sort of knocked on the door of the Dominican film industry a little, and I didn't take a real serious run at it. And then the year I bought my first condo, because I have 3 now, the year I bought my first condo here, they announced that they were building a film studio in the south. And the next time I came back, about 2 or 3 months later, I was knocking on their door, letting them know I was here. And I had residency. I'm legal to work here. And over the past 10 years to 15 years, the industry, the service industry here has been growing and growing and growing and growing. And what we've been able to do in the last 2 years, we could not have done 10 years ago when they broke ground on the studio. The level of film crew here has increased so much that you don't need to bring the entire crew. Like, 15 years ago, 20 years ago and before, companies would bring everybody from Europe or North America and have some local help. Now we're at a point where there are Dominican department heads. You don't need to bring an entire camera department. You don't need to bring an entire AD team. I'm very fortunate in the fact that I'm considered sort of an extranjero local. Like I'm truly, especially as it pertains to the Dominican Republic, I'm truly a Dominicanadian. I speak Dominican and I speak Hollywood, and so that has allowed me to work on a bunch of really great shows here. And especially during the pandemic, I didn't have to leave here in order to work. I did three projects here through the pandemic even. So the strength of the Dominican film industry is huge, and they're shooting all over the island. There's another studio being built here on the North Coast, very close to Cabarete. So there will be a bit of a labor market for people interested, or people who work in film in cold areas who might want to work somewhere warm instead. But the Dominican film industry is growing by leaps and bounds, and the level of equipment and personnel raises every year. It's been amazing, as someone who's probably closer to the end of his career than the beginning, to see the beginning of something new here has been really amazing. And I've taken every opportunity I can to train people and bring people along, so that I'm leaving something behind for the Dominican film industry. So much so that I'm helping to get the first truly Dominican, because I don't count, the first truly Dominican assistant director into the Directors Guild of America. And that's going to happen this year. Amalia Ramirez Atiles, who I work with a lot here. And that's very exciting to leave something like that behind.
Yeah, could you name a couple movies which they created here in the Dominican Republic?
Old, the M. Night Shyamalan movie Old was done. I mean, if you wanted old school, like way back in the day, the Africa and Cuba portions of The Good Shepherd were done here. Like I said, Godfather 2 was done here. Havana, the Robert Redford movie was done here, and these are all 20, 30 years ago. But sort of in the modern era, the last couple of years, we've seen the M. Night Shyamalan picture Old shot here. The Jennifer Lopez movie that's coming out next month, Shotgun Wedding, was done here. Lost City with Sandra Bullock was done here, amongst others. Mark Wahlberg movie called Arthur the King. Another movie called Naiad, about the story of Diana Naiad, who swam from Cuba to Florida. All kinds of, and it really has been in the last 5-6 years that the international production community has come to notice the Dominican Republic and appreciate what it has to offer. I mean, you can't make your New York movie here. But if you've got a movie that's got water, beach, jungle, or Latin American city, you can do that here. You can also do Heidi here if you had to, because there's mountains. It's unbelievable. The only thing they don't have is big North American looking city.
Yeah.
They have everything else is possible, and there's stages and craftsmen here to build sets. So aside from big North American city streets, you can pretty much be anywhere. It's one of the luckiest things about working in the film industry here in the Dominican Republic is I've seen pieces of the island that I never would have gotten to see. There's deserts, there's mountains that look like you're in Switzerland. There's it looks like the Alps in some of these places near Jarabacoa. And it really does provide every kind of locale except for big North American city.
Yeah. And what is your best part of living here? Not working here, living here.
The best part of living here is, I think, sort of the freedom you feel. I mean, there's rules. It's a real country and everything. You can't just run up and down the street, firing weapons and going 400 miles an hour. But there is a little bit of a sense of more freedom to do whatever it is you want to do, as long as you're not hurting or affecting anyone else.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rules in North America and Europe that are rules for rules' sake. And I'm an assistant director. I live and die by rules. I'm a rules guy. But one of the great things about the Dominican Republic is that as long as you're not hurting anyone else, you can pretty much do whatever it is you want. And the other thing is the people. Both the expats and Dominican people are, by and large, I mean, there's good and bad people everywhere, but by and large, the people here are great, especially in Cabarete. Cabarete is kind of a unique pearl. in the ocean. It really is. There's lots of places like it. There's lots of beach towns and surf towns all over the world where there's cool people and, you know, white guys with dreads and, you know, places to find your stoke. But there's nothing quite like Cabarete. There's a lot of places like Cabarete, but there's nothing quite like Cabarete. It's a unique mixture of expats and locals without a lot of fenced-in gated communities. There's a few, but without a lot of fenced-in gated communities, everybody mixes. There's not a lot of division between expat and local. And also, like, you can, when you walk down the street in Cabarete, you're as likely to hear Russian, German, French, or English as you are Spanish.
Yeah.
And I mean in a good way. You know, that everybody kind of gets along, and it's a small town, so you're gonna see everybody again, so you best be nice. Like, and I think that's what keeps Cabarete as friendly as it is.
Yeah.
Is that it's so small that you're gonna see everybody again.
Yeah.
So you gotta be nice to everybody.
I agree. And I'm so glad you're part of our community, Darrin, and that we're good friends and we see each other all the time.
We see each other all the time. That's part of it too, is that it really is a community. When somebody is in trouble, if someone's in a motorcycle accident, if somebody's losing their house or their house fell into the river because it was built in a place, you know, that falls into the river, people come together and help. And even if you don't know the person that well, you'll know someone who knows that person, and it'll make you want to help. So there is a real community here. There are divisions within that community. There's, you know, kiters don't always talk to the surfers, and the surfers don't always talk to the kiters. The ones who do both talk to everybody, and nobody knows what to make of the people who've started winging. No one knows what their deal is. But, you know, there are divisions within that community, but by and large, people are nice to each other, and people will help each other out when they can.
I totally agree on that. And on those notes, I know Tommy's flying. And is there anything else, Darrin, you'd like to add up or to share with the world?
No, just come and visit Cabarete and rent an apartment from me or Audrey. Audrey's got apartments for rent as well.
Yeah, well, Darrin has some great apartments. So if you guys looking for a place, let me know. If you guys want to buy an apartment, let me know. We can definitely help you out. All right, Darrin, will you have a wonderful Sunday? Thanks so much.
Thank you. Go Bills.
I see you on the beach later on.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.